Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is Josh. I'm going to be your presenter today. Welcome to everybody. Today our topic is Accounting Check Designer. We're talking about the check designer in accounting, okay? There is a video out on the website for printing checks in accounting, but it doesn't really cover and go over the check designer function, okay? And that's what I wanted to cover with this event today, all right? So you can get to the print checks window, of course, right here in the middle. Let me get out my highlighter by clicking print checks right here, or we can go up to reports export right up here at the top left. Click on that, and then right here below that to the right, print checks right here. Okay, there's print checks. Opens up the same window either way, okay, to get to the print check screen. All right. So when printing checks in church windows, and this is a common question we get from churches that are considering buying the software more often than not, more than anything else, I'd say, in my 2 or more decades of doing this, is asking us about what check styles church window supports. And it's very simple. Right here, they're listed. We support a check stub format, or a check stub format. Stub, check, stub, meaning, of course, there's a stub on the top, check in the middle, stub on the bottom, or the check stub with the check on the top, the stub in the middle, and the stub on the bottom. Of course, one of the stubs is meant to be retained for the church's record, of course, and the other is meant to go with the check to the vendor or payee, okay? So only one check can be printed per page in church windows, and that's true in either accounting or in payroll, okay? Both payroll, church windows payroll, and accounting only support these two types of layouts. Church windows, this check designer cannot be used to change the layout to print, say, 3 checks per page, with, checks in the top, middle, and the bottom, okay, with the stub on the left. Support software doesn't do that. It will only print one check per page. That's true for both church windows and payroll, okay? Because of the different sub-report information on the checks, meaning different information prints on the check stubs that are in accounting versus the information that prints on the check stubs in payroll, therefore they are different check layouts. They're different checks, okay? So essentially the layouts that we create or customize in, say, accounting are not going to be available to us to print in payroll, and vice versa. Payroll check layouts that I create there are not going to be available for me to print in accounting, okay? Different information prints on the stubs in accounting versus payroll. That's why they're not the same check layouts, okay? Yeah, and as I said, it's only going to print one of these 2 check styles or types or layouts, and only one check will print per page. Really, really important that folks get that, because we do get that question a lot. Oh, I've got checks from my old handwritten system that, have 3 checks on a page, and I want to be able to try to keep, use that check stock. Sorry, we can't do it. There's just no way we can salvage that, I'm afraid, okay? All right, so when working with the check layout here in accounting, church windows, we click the down arrow here, and so I meant to start with this, is you do not need to have a check. You don't need to enter a bill and pay a bill and put a check in the print queue in order to be able to work with the designer. This is a really common misunderstanding. Don't I have to have a check in the print queue ready to be able to work with that if I'm going to work with the check designer feature in the software? And the simple answer to that is no. We simply need to get to the print checks window and choose whichever one of these layouts you're wanting to work with, okay? In this list, okay, we're going to see the templates that we, Church Windows, the software developer, have built into the software. If you've had the software for some time, you may also see other layouts that other users may have tried to create or work with or manipulate or generate or what have you, okay? These layouts, these templates, notice it says parentheses, template, a closed parent. stub, check stub, or template, within parentheses, check stub stub, okay? These templates cannot be overwritten, all right? When you enter a new layout and you want to save it, you attempt to save it, and I'm going to go through it and show you how that works here momentarily. You cannot click save on this. It flashes a red dot at you and goes, hey, got to create a new layout. So you take off the word template or create, but just take out whatever's in there, put in a name of your own, and then save it, and the software saves it for you, okay? These check templates are always there for you to go back to should you absolutely need it. And that's true whether you buy new checks, in a year or two from now, or whether you're working with the designer and you save a layout and you go, I don't know if I like that. I want to go back. You can delete the one you created and you can go in and work with the template and start over with the template again. For whatever reason, this is always here for you to go back to. All right. So let's say we're going to go choose our template stub check stub layout here, and we're going to click on that. Once it's populated in the check layout, I don't need to enter anything else here. I'm simply going to go to the check designer button here to the right. Okay. This now opens the check designer page right up here in the upper left, right above save as and save. It says check designer. That's the window where we are. This is the designer page. Okay, so as I was kind of writing up some of my own material here for this today, I want to just confirm for some folks that this check designer page functions exactly like other designer pages elsewhere in Church Windows. So if you're, say, familiar with membership reports designer or the statement designer function in donations, you will feel very comfortable and should have no problem working with the check designer here in accounting, okay? The thing that I think that folks can take most from this, that I think learn the most from these designer videos that we do is functionality is, and I'm going to get my highlighter out here to kind of draw a little focus, is down here in the bottom left, we see two little buttons down here, tabs as I call them, designer and preview, right down here, okay? My poorly drawn arrows. I don't draw arrows very well with a mouse. So if we notice there, we've got two little buttons, one that says designer and one that says preview. It opens to the designer button automatically, okay? The designer tab is where we actually make the changes and manipulations, or the changes to the check layout that we're working with are made, all right? It identifies, payee, account number, check date, invoice information, comments, payee, written amount, all that stuff. This is just the information as it's printing on here. This is where the manipulation is done, okay? Fields here can be moved by drag and drop. So if I go, my check date and my amount, my actual, my numeric dollar amounts need to be moved, I can literally just click on check date. See, it kind of draws the line with the box around it, and I can drag that and I can move that up, okay? I can do that with any fields, okay? I can also, and this is again something that folks oftentimes don't really realize, is I go, okay, I've got this and I'm going to put it into an approximate area, but then I want to have a little more control. If you hold down your control key and use your up and down arrows, see, if I do that, it just moves it up incrementally in literally, like, I think, millimeters at a time. And I can move it left or right or up or down. Hopefully folks can see that moving there, okay? So I don't have to rely on, the inaccuracy of a mouse in terms of being able to try to pinpoint those fields and put them in the exact spot. If I can kind of put it in the general area, I can use the control function, control key, with my up and down arrows and really, really get it to go right where exactly I want it to go. Okay? Fields can be resized. Okay, so if I click down here under, say, written amount, right, I can put my cursor over the edges here and I can actually resize the fields lengthwise or up and down, okay? So I can rearrange those as we have with other designers in other parts of the software. What we don't want is we don't want red. Okay, so if I notice here when I drag up that payee address and it overlaps over the written amount, it goes, whoa, I've got some potentially overlapping or fields and field information here that when you actually attempt to print it, it could create some problems. So you want to try to avoid that red as well. So I can do one of two things. I can just pick that up and I can pull that back down, and notice now the red goes away. If it's touching right up against one another, it's not going to generate red, which is what it's done here. I'm going to bring that down just a little bit more. Actually, let me do my control, and there we go. I've created just a fraction of space in between those there, okay? Different stubs have different information, okay? Notice down here we've got the expense information. This would typically, because the expense information, they're talking about the expense account that was charged in your chart of accounts. So that to me means this bottom stub is the stub that I'm going to be retaining for the church's records. Okay, that expense account information means absolutely nothing to the vendor. This invoice information probably does. So in our concept or design of this particular layout, and that's true for the check stub 2, is the ones is meant for us, so I would tear off the bottom one for my records, put that in my folder or what have you, and then put this top stub and the check, fold those up and put those in the envelope to send to the payee. Okay? All right. Over here on the right is what's called the standard controls list. Over here. So right over here, folks, on the right here, this list. That is all of the possible information fields that can be included on the actual physical check itself. Virtually all of these fields are already over here on the left somewhere. So unless you're like completely wiping out the layout, removing all this information, you shouldn't really need to do much with this information over here on the right. Sure, you could put in lines or something, but basically, folks, the only way you would need to do that is if I was like, I hit the delete key and oops, I deleted the written amount field. I can bring that over here and I can just pick that up, drag that over here, and boom, I'm back to my written amount. Okay, it's back over there. The one thing here is it's now, notice it is left justified. It was right justified before. So if I want to get that right justified, I have to go up and steer my focus now up here across the top. See, and here's my justification section up here. So if I click on one particular field, right, I've got written amount, click the right justify, boom, notice written amount jumps over to the right side there. Or I can center it, whatever you want to do. Folks, you've virtually got same kind of control that you have in basically any sort of kind of word processing capability. These functions up here are basic functions. I'm talking about these little things across the top up here. But if you notice, if you hover over some of these, a floating help message comes up. Horizontally center is selected controls or the band. Vertically, remove the spacing between the controls, so spacing controls. Increasing, make equal. I rarely use these on my support calls, but they're there if you want to tinker around with those and play with those. But honestly, folks, on virtually all of my support calls, I've rarely, if ever, used those. I'm more likely to use like the font change sizes, bold, underline, italicize, justification, what have you, okay? So, all right, I've kind of gone on about that. You get the idea, all right? You manipulate, drag fields around, delete them. Like I said, if I click on a field and hit the delete key on my keyboard, it deletes that field out of there too. You can always add it back from the standard controls on the right. All right, to get back on topic here. Once I've made my changes to my layout that I think I'm wanting, I'm now going to jump back down into the bottom left to my preview tab, and here is a sample check with my changes. All right. So I can now go up to the print button here in the upper left. I don't need to burn check stock to do this. You can if you really want to. but you don't have to. I would be putting plain paper in the printer, right? Printing this sample check under the preview button to a plain sheet of paper, overlay it over one of my checks, hold it up to the light, see how it aligns. For everything that technology offers us, folks, this is still kind of the best and only way to be able to do this. Unless you're willing to burn checks. I don't think I would be, but that's what I would do. Print this to plain paper, overlay it over the check, hold it up, see how it aligns. If it's not right, I'm going to jump back down to my designer button. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to manipulate it. Okay? I'm going to go, oh yeah, the written dollar amount needs to come in a little bit. So I'm going to grab my control key and move it left and see if I do it again. Or change whatever I'm changing. So I'm going to toggle back and forth between the designer and the preview tabs, printing it to plain paper each and every time, overlaying it over one of my checks until it aligns exactly the way I want it. You should be able to get these checks, folks, to line up exactly with the layout that they're printing to using this check designer. Okay? And again, knowing that you have the template to go back to, try the templates, print them to plain paper, overlay it over one of your checks, see if it aligns up. I work with churches where they go, well, yeah, I printed to the template, had to change nothing. Absolutely didn't need to do anything to it. If that doesn't work, then jump into the designer and then start moving and manipulating fields around until you get it aligned exactly right. Okay? When I've now done this, I can now either go up to Save As in the upper left-hand corner, right up here, Save As or Save and save it if I want to choose to put it into a particular location, or I can simply go to the X in the upper left-hand corner, upper right-hand corner right up here and close out of that. Either way, it's going to generate the prompt to save. Okay? So if I now use the X and close out, it says, hey, enter a name for your layout. Okay? So if I try to click yes on this, notice it says, it's barking at me. The red X dot says, cannot overwrite this file. Please choose another name. So I have to give it a new name. So I'd call it, whatever, our church checks, something like that. I usually use like a abbreviation of the church name and say checks on it within my support calls. Just has to be a different name. Okay. Then I simply click yes. Oh yeah, Teresa, great idea. So somebody just piped in on the there, says sometimes they'll photocopy a blank check and print to the copy to see if the alignment's okay. That's a wonderful suggestion. Great idea. So fantastic. Yeah, and then just destroy the checks out or those copies afterwards. Fantastic. Thank you for pointing that out. So now the software is going to choose under my check layout our church checks. As soon as I've made that and click print, it'll now remember it. So if I were to go to, if I had some checks in the print queue, I'd click print. And now when I close out and go back into print checks, notice it saved the layout that I created. So that made the saving of the format as a selection might be under my username, but every user who can log into accounting is now going to have the ability to see not only the template, but the check layout that I've created. Okay. So let me take a look here at my notes here. Yeah, so you see how you can't overwrite one of the layouts, one of the templates. You just have to create them. And folks, you can create as many of them as you wish, because you can always come in here, choose one of the ones that don't say template on it, click the delete button here, the little minus sign, delete layout, and it allows you to zap that out of there. Okay? So don't be afraid of diving into this, folks, because again, you can always go back to the template defaults, and you can always save multiple layouts of the checks that you're creating. Okay? So again, I always like to think that these webinars give folks a little bit more confidence to go in and kind of play with these designers, and notably these check designer functions, if they're feeling a little uncomfortable about it, knowing they can always get back to where they started. So having gone a minute or so long, folks, that is where I'm going to leave the topic for today.